In today's episode, we are looking at a powerful message from Pastor Peter. It's titled, We Are Moving Forward.
And it's all based on a story in Exodus 17.
Right. And if you want to hear the full message, which really, it just lays this out beautifully, the link is waiting for you in the description.
It's a great one. It focuses on Exodus chapter 17. And if you think you know this story, the water from the rock, Moses holding his hands up.
Yeah, the classic bits.
Right. This analysis might actually surprise you. It reframes the whole struggle in a way that feels, frankly, uncomfortably modern.
It really does. It takes this story about ancient survival and turns it into like a masterclass on psychology and team dynamic.
So let's set the stakes. We have the Israelites. They're fresh out of Egypt. They're trying to move forward, but they just keep getting dragged back.
Yeah.
And Pastor Peter argues that while this looks like a logistical crisis, lack of resources, it's actually a crisis of belief. He calls it a faith problem, disguised as a water problem.
That distinction is the key to unlocking this whole chapter. And to get why this matters, you have to look at the psychological state of these people. I mean, they aren't just hikers having a bad day.
Yeah.
They're a trauma population.
Yeah.
They've just exited 400 years of systemic slavery. That is generations of having no agency, no control, just oppression.
Right, so they're physically free, but mentally they're still waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And in a very short time, they've been on this massive roller coaster. I mean, think about it. They saw the Red Sea part, probably the greatest rescue operation in history.
Watch the superpower of the day just get washed away.
Which is a pretty hard act to follow.
It is.
But then reality sets in. They've already survived the bitter water test at a place called Mara, where God made the water drinkable. They survived the hunger test in the wilderness of Sin, where manna literally appeared on the ground.
So they have a data set. They have empirical evidence that their God provides. This isn't a theory for them. They ate the miracle for breakfast.
They do. But the psychological insight here, and this is what makes it so human, is how quickly immediate suffering just wipes out past evidence.
Right.
Pastor Peter points out they get to a new spot, the wheels come off, and boom, they revert to that survival mindset. It's like the Red Sea never even happened.
And that sets up the structure for our deep dive perfectly. We're looking at two movements in Exodus 17. First, there's the internal crisis, the thirst, the anger.
The mutiny, basically.
Yeah. And second, the external conflict, an actual military attack. And the mission today is to see how those two connect. Because the argument is, you can't win the external war if you haven't fixed the internal crisis.
Precisely. It's about the structural integrity of the group. If the foundation is cracked, the walls won't hold when the wind blows.
So let's go to that first scene, the internal crisis. The Israelites arrive at a place called Rephidim. And usually place names in these texts are just like geography.
Yeah, turn left at the big rock.
Exactly. But here, the name is doing a lot of work, isn't it?
Oh, it's deeply ironic work. In Hebrew, the word Rephidim, it translates to places of resting.
Place of rest.
Or support, yeah.
Yeah.
And the text is very specific. They move there at the Lord's command. This wasn't a wrong turn by Moses. God leads them to a place named Rest. And when they get there, there is zero water.
That feels like a setup. Or, I don't know, very dark practical joke. Welcome to the resort. Sorry, the pool's empty.
It does feel that way. But the theological point here is that God often brings people to the end of their resources to reveal the source of their reliance. He brought them to Rephidim to show them what was really in their hearts.
So the test is, can you rest when the circumstances aren't restful?
That's it, exactly. If you're only resting because everything is perfect, you aren't really resting in God. You're just resting in your circumstances.
And they did not take it well.
No. The text says they complained, but that feels way too mild. It's not like sending back cold soup. This was aggressive. They were angry. And this brings us to a crucial Hebrew keyword from the sermon, rib.
Rib. That's R-I-B.
Roughly, yeah. And it's courtroom terminology. It means to contend, to bring a case, or to file a lawsuit.
Whoa. So they aren't just saying, hey, Moses, we're thirsty. They are litigious.
They're looking for liability. They're saying, we are dying and it is your fault. We're suing for damages. But Moses, he's sharp. He realizes the scope is bigger.
What does he say?
He says, why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt the Lord? He sees that, on the surface, they're suing him for malpractice. But deeper down, they're putting God on trial.
That is a massive escalation.
It is. The lawsuit is the people versus God. And the charge is negligence or even attempted murder, bringing them out here just to kill them.
It goes from I need a drink to God as a fraud in record time.
And that leads to the really haunting question in verse 7. The people ask, is the Lord among us or not? That's the core accusation. They were putting his existence on the witness stand.
which is wild, considering, and I keep coming back to this, they ate miracle bread for breakfast that morning. How do you eat a miracle at 8 a.m. and question God's existence at noon?
It just speaks to the recency bias of the human condition, you know? Pain is loud, memory is quiet. The thirst in that moment screamed louder than the memory of the bread.
So how does this resolve?
Well, the immediate resolution is that God tells Moses to strike the rock and water flows. He settles the lawsuit by providing what they need, despite their attitude.
He provides the settlement.
He does. But, and here's where the sermon makes a crucial pivot. The water fixes the thirst, but it doesn't fix the vulnerability.
What do you mean by that? They got the water.
They got the water, but the question of God's presence, their dependence on him, it just sets the stage for what happens next. The internal doubt makes them vulnerable because immediately, before they can even enjoy the water, we hit the external conflict.
Enter the Amalekites.
The Amalekites. And the timing here is not an accident. The source material highlights this as a strategic insight. The enemy is predatory. Amalek doesn't attack when Israel is strong and celebrating. They attack at Rephidim when the people are dehydrated, fighting with each other, and totally exhausted.
They kick them when they're down.
Literally. They attack the rear of the column, the stragglers, the weak, the elderly. It's a brutal, opportunistic strike.
So Moses has to pivot from a water riot to a war. And he comes up with a battle plan that is, let's just say, unconventional. He splits the operation into two venues.
Right. Venue 1 is the valley, the kinetic environment. Moses tells Joshua, his general, choose men and go fight. That's the physical battle. Swords, dust, the whole thing.
Okay, that makes sense. But then there's venue 2, the hill. Moses says, I will stand at the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand.
And if I'm Joshua, I'm thinking, okay, so I'll take the army and the swords and you'll take the stick. Good luck with that. It seems completely lopsided.
It looks like Moses is just retiring to a safe distance to watch. But then the narrative shows us the mechanism of victory. And it's one of the strangest correlations in Scripture.
It is, the text says. When Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. When he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed.
It's almost like a remote control. Hands up, go. Hands down, stop. It's easy to read that and just think it's magic or something.
It's easy to, but the analysis frames it as a lesson in the theology of power. One source in the sermon puts it perfectly. The battle was fought in the valley, but it was decided on the hill.
Decided on the hill. Wow, that's a powerful line.
It is. It's a visible demonstration. Remember, they just asked, is God among us? This is the answer. God sets up a scenario where it's undeniable that their victory is tethered to something outside their own military prowess. It's tethered to intercession, to dependence.
So Moses on the hill isn't a cheerleader. He's the conduit. He represents the connection to God, and if that connection drops, the effort in the valley fails.
You can fight as hard as you want in the valley, but if you're disconnected from the source of power on the hill, you lose. It completely deconstructs that idea of self-made success.
But here's the problem, and honestly the most relatable part of the story for me. Moses is human. He's an 80-year-old man. He gets tired.
And this is the pivot point of the whole sermon, the human limit. Moses, this great leader, he simply cannot keep his hands up alone. It's physically impossible. And as his arms drop, people in the valley start to die.
The stakes are so high. It's not just that his arms hurt. His fatigue is costing lives. If he tries to be the sole hero, Israel loses.
So, enter the unsung heroes, Aaron and Hur. They see Moses faltering, and I love how practical they are. They don't just stand there and cheer him on.
Right, no, you got this, Moses. Mind over matter.
None of that. They look at the biology of the situation. The man is collapsing, so step 1, they get a stone and put it under him so he can sit. They address his exhaustion.
Which is a nice callback. He's at Rephidim, the place of rest, and someone finally gets the man a chair.
Finally. But sitting isn't enough. His arms are still heavy. So step 2. Aaron stands on one side, Hur on the other, and they physically hold his hands up. They become the external skeleton for his conviction.
And the text says, his hands were steady until sunset.
And look at the result. Joshua overwhelmed Amalek. But the key takeaway, as Pastor Peter emphasizes, is that teamwork is God's design. You have 3 distinct roles. Joshua, the warrior, Moses, the intercessor, and Aaron and Hur, the supporters.
And if you remove any one of those roles, the whole thing fails. If Joshua doesn't fight, they die. If Moses doesn't pray, they lose.
And if Aaron and Hur don't support, Moses collapses and they lose. It's a closed loop. It just dismantles the great man theory of leadership. God never intended one person to carry it all.
And after the battle, Moses builds an altar. He doesn't name it Moses is awesome or Joshua's a great fighter.
No, he names it Jehovah Nissi. The Lord is my banner.
The flag and army rallies around.
Right. He's saying, we didn't win because of my hands or Joshua's sword. We won because God was the banner over all of it. He gets the credit.
That's such a relief. You don't have to be the banner. You just have to be under it.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've got this ancient picture of survival. But Pastor Peter brings this right into the modern day, and he introduces a theme for the year. Closer, closer to God, closer to people.
Which ties right back to Exodus. The Israelites needed to be closer to God. That's Moses on the hill. And closer to each other. That's Aaron and Hur.
And I really loved the examples he used for Aaron and Hur in the modern church, because most of us aren't holding up a staff during a war.
Right. So who are the Aarons and Hurs today? He points to the invisible roles. The people who change the flower arrangements, the people who make sure the bathrooms are clean and the trash is empty.
The potluck logistics.
Yes. He explicitly mentions the people who make sure the potluck food is warm by noon. He's reframing these tasks. We think of them as chores. He says heating a casserole or cleaning a floor is literally an Aaron and Hur function.
I love that. It dignifies the invisible work. If the bathroom is dirty, people are distracted. If they're distracted, they miss the message, so the person scrubbing the sink is helping win the battle.
Exactly. Pastor Peter says, no role is invisible to God. When the church wins, everyone wins. Just like in Exodus, the victory wasn't just for the guys on the hill. The whole nation was saved.
It really challenges that consumer mindset of just showing up to watch the show. He's basically saying, grab a stone, grab a hand, do something.
And he says it so well. God is inviting you, not to do everything, but to do something. It's an invitation to participation, not exhaustion.
So, pulling this all together, we started with a group suing God because they didn't trust him. We ended with a victory that was only possible because they learned to lean on God and on each other.
It's a progression from internal chaos to external victory, and the bridge is dependence. People who don't learn dependence on God internally will be vulnerable externally, but when they learn to trust and support each other, victory flows.
It's a powerful lesson. And as we wrap up this deep dive, there's a final thought I want to leave you with. We talked about Moses getting tired. And I think a lot of us feel that way. We feel like our arms are shaking and we're about to drop the staff.
And it raises a provocative question for you, the listener. If you're feeling exhausted right now, is it possible that the exhaustion isn't a sign that you're failing? Maybe it's not a sign you aren't strong enough. Maybe it's just a signal that you're trying to be a sole operator when you were designed to have an Aaron and Hur.
That is a huge question to chew on. Are you refusing the rock to sit on? Are you trying to hold your hands up all alone? Because this story says that simply doesn't work.
It doesn't. Teamwork isn't just a nice idea. In this story, it's the fundamental design of survival.
Well, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope this unpacked Exodus 17 in a way that helps you move forward in your own battles. And please, subscribe to the podcast so you can catch the next episodes. We'd love to have you back.
And don't forget to check the link in the description for Pastor Peter's full message.
Thanks for listening, everyone.